Once upon a time,
in a land far away.
I'm Katrina.
And I'm Geoff.
This is the Fairy Tellers Podcast.
Myth, legend, folklore, fable.
We explore what they say about cultures then and now,
Grab a hot cup of cocoa and a comfy seat
while we tell you a tale.
Welcome back to the podcast.
What kind of episode are we going to have?
I have a feeling that it is going to be, once again, another exciting episode of the Fairy Tellers Podcast. And we are so happy to have you here with us.
We absolutely are.
For such a great episode.
It is. It's going to be a fantastic episode because we are going to be doing this episode in honor of Fairy Tale Fix podcast with Abbie and Kelsey. We have been on their podcast before in the past. They read out fairy tales and then they fix them. They change little things about them in different great ways. It's an excellent podcast for creative writers and writing and kind of getting to play with fairy tales and pull out what you want to pull out that is useful in storytelling and reshape them. It's great. Great podcast. And they recently had a giveaway where they were giving away, it was like a contest where you got some stickers because they have merch. Geoff, so jealous. We need to someday. We keep talking about someday merch. It's been almost 7 years.
Hop on now to fairytellers.store and pick up your Fairy Tellers Podcast merch.
Yeah. And so it was.
I haven't even bought that domain yet. Someone else probably stole it from under me.
So some stickers, a wallet that looks like a little book of Grimm's fairy tales, and the book, A Book of Ghosts and Goblins by Ruth Manning-Sanders. And these are books that were published back in the 1960s when Ruth Manning-Sanders wrote them. And also amazing drawings by Robin Jacques. But they are being reprinted in paperback. And so you can get copies at a fairly good price because they're reprinting them. And so we have actually done an episode before where we did a ghost story from this book, and it was in our Eat the Rich episode where we retold the story Bring Me a Light. And also people might be familiar of our episodes that we've done with Ruth Manning-Sanders books because I've never owned one. I find them on archive.org, and you can as well if you're wanting to flip through them and see some of the art. In the mermaid one.
That was one of these ones?
Yes, Robin Jacques.
Oh my gosh. Amazing.
That, I think it was an Irish mermaid in a lake that I'm like, oof.
Stunning.
Girl built like a goldfish. Girl, get it. Hopping around on land underwater.
You figure that out.
I'll have to figure out what. I think that was last year when we actually were able to pull off a mermaid episode. And so I'll put in the show notes which episode that was from.
I was going to say, I don't think we did ever pull off a mermaid episode. I think we did once do a mermaid in July or something like that.
Yeah. I feel like last year.
Oh no, I think we did get it out on May 31st or 30th or something.
Yeah, where it was ooh, right at the tail end where I was like, haha, you can't stop me.
The tail end.
Because
mermaids have tails, and also it was a fairy tale.
So many layers.
Triple entendre. Amazing.
Incredible. Wow, we are really a top-notch podcast. If we can pull off triple entendres.
It's funny because you were just talking about, I was thinking about this the other day, and I think it was in thinking about recording another episode of our podcast, the Fairy Tale Fix, they're kind of the, what's the word to use? I don't know. The kind of the central idea of their structure. Yeah. The conceit of their podcast being tell a tale and then say how you would fix it, how you want it to be different. And it's I was thinking about that. I was like, man, it is such a good conceit for a podcast.
Yeah.
That I'm so jealous of. And I'm and it works so well with the title too, the title thing being it's so it works. It works really well.
Yeah.
And not to say that ours doesn't work. It does. It works perfectly for what we do, which is we tell.
Yeah.
We tell them and we talk about whatever we want and however we want to talk about it. And you can't do anything about it except for stop listening. But please keep listening because we love you.
That's why it was so fun when we got to be on an episode of their podcast. I felt like we were able to be like more creatively unleashed, because it is like the conceit of our podcast is the like, we retell the tale. And yes, we have some of my like rude asides and like whatnot. And like you and I, you know, goofing and like riffing and having fun that way, but trying to make a very clear line about like what was written in the tale and like what things are, you know, me being rude and sassy, but trying to stick with it, like what it is, so that we can talk about the culture that created it.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I guess the idea of our podcast works and it's got merit, but it was so, it was so fun to get to like, you know, retell tales and be like, oh, I hated this character. I wish that this character at the end got like run over by a spiked wheel.
Yeah. It was fun. We should make us be on their podcast again sometime soon. Yeah. And we didn't make them in the first place. I don't know what I'm saying. Like, we should beg them to let us do another episode of the podcast because it was really fun.
It was super fun. And so while they had this like, you know, like promotional giveaway going on, I was boosting it on our Instagram and doing the things, you know, like everybody, things that you can do if you can't help a podcast monetarily or any like content creator, liking it, sharing it, interacting with it by like adding comments. So I was doing that. I was trying to like boost the giveaway, but then as would happen, because like that's statistics, is that we ended up actually winning the giveaway, which I was super excited about. But at the same time, there's like part of me that was like, oh, that's not fair. Because I don't need.
I felt guilty about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this had to be rigged. Why did they rig it in our favor? Which they didn't, because then I like heard that we had won somehow. And then I went and actually like saw the like drawing. It's like, it looked pretty legit, unless every single one of those pieces of paper was just fairy tellers, which I don't think it was.
Yeah.
You know.
And so, yeah, it was like, nope, it happened organically, which I'm like excited because, listen, I did want their stickers. I did want to win, but I also was like, oh, so what I decided to do instead, because I'm not going to be like, no, redraw. No, don't give me all this stuff. Was I was like, you know what? We should do an episode in honor of Fairy Tale Fix and Ghosts and Goblins. So since we've already done a ghost story from this book, and we'll probably do ghost episodes as we get closer to, you know, Halloween-y times, I thought we would focus today just on some goblin stories. So I wanted to say, it doesn't go into this in the book itself, but I did want to, I don't know, add scholarship to what we do. I don't know, because that's the conceit of our podcasts. But I was going to just say, like, the term and the idea of, like, goblin, it is kind of like, it's a very loose catch-all term. I won't get into, like, kind of the boring etymology of it where they're like, it could be Anglo-Norman French or Old French or possibly medieval Latin or an ancient Greek word. And I'm like, okay, everybody's eyes are glazing over because basically there's a bunch of words from High German or Old High German, medieval Latin, Old English, Old French, whatever, that all sound very much like goblin, Goblin, and they're all describing a mischievous spirit, some type of like no good magical little creature, usually small in size. So whether you're talking about what kind of in stories ends up being called like brownies in one place will be somebody else's goblin, somebody else's knocker. Not their knockers. And also, I feel like I've heard similar things. We've never done a Rumpelstiltskin like episode, but there's like also creatures like in Rumpelstiltskin's type like stories where the name of the creature is like supposed to be kind of describing the sound they make when they go bump in the night. I don't know what goes Rumpelstiltskin. If you hear something make that sound in your house, run. Or unplug your fridge and then plug it in again because your ice machine is broken. It's one of those. But yeah, I'm like, there's also boggarts, Bogarts? How do you pronounce
Humphrey?
it? Humphrey Bogart? Humphrey Bogart. No. Puka? So, and also like different, they're not called leprechauns. There's different types of cons, like chons, where it's like leprechauns, cluricons, like different stuff, Irish. But anyway, so inside of this book, there are tales from different places, mostly Europe and like the northern Eurasian continent. And then there is also one that she just says is like from Africa. But I'm like, Africa is a very wide category.
Yeah.
I'm like, Egypt, Congo, South Africa are all Africa. So it's like, good need to be a little more specific. But anyway, all the goblin tales have a creature who kind of fits the same description. And so kind of fits into this like small, mischievous spirit that is making trouble in the neighborhood. And so I'm going to have Geoff start off. He is going to be retelling The Three Silver Balls, which is actually an Italian story.
Interesting. There was nothing about the story itself that would have made me think that it was Italian, except for that the little girl calls her mother Mama. But I mean,
yeah,
I was just like, Mamma Mia. But she doesn't say Mamma Mia. She just says, my mama sent me to get a few cabbage
My
leaves.
Mamma Mia sent me to get us. And you're like, nope.
I thought that was a weird choice for the dialect to be written into the story.
And just to let people know, I'm white, so I can make offensive white accents.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't want anyone to be like, is she allowed to? Yeah.
So anyway, The Three Silver Balls. A poor man and his wife had 3 little girls. And very soon in the story, just like with any, I was going to say good Disney movie, but any Disney movie, period, the parents, at least one parent, falls terribly ill, but does not die.
Yeah.
Because this isn't a Disney story. It's an Italian fairy tale. And so the wife was cooking him food as this man is like laying in bed sick. And she cooked him this, she cooked him that. That's what it says. But she couldn't find anything that he liked except for cabbage soup. Like for whatever reason, this sick man had a craving for cabbage soup. But the wife didn't have any cabbages. So she was like, well, how am I supposed to make this cabbage soup that he wants? We don't have any cabbages. But she remembered. She's like, I actually know where there are some cabbages. So she sends her eldest little daughter out to go to the Goblin's house and ask him for a few cabbage leaves from his garden. So she's happened to remember that there was a goblin whose garden had some cabbages in it and just decided to send her child to go and treat with this goblin for some cabbage leaves. So the little girl takes a basket, heads off for the goblin's house, and she gets to the door and she starts knocking. And she knocks louder, no answer. She starts wandering around the garden looking for the goblin, can't find him anywhere. But as she's going through the garden, she sees these rows and rows and rows of cabbages, and she's like, oh, I see my mom sent me here because there's plenty of cabbages. He probably won't mind if I just take some. So she starts picking a few leaves off of the cabbages, and soon enough has like filled her entire basket. And just when she has filled her basket, she hears the goblin calling down to her from the house. It's like, hey, what are you doing down there? And so the little girl responds and says like, oh, my mom sent me here to get some cabbage leaves. Tells him the whole story. My dad's ill. He doesn't want anything but cabbage soup. And so the goblin's like, come up here. And the girl's like, no, my mom's going to get mad if I don't come home quickly. Like I've got the cabbage leaves that she wants. And the goblin kind of like interrupts. She's like, no, just come up here. I'll give you a present that you can take home with you. So the little girl leaves her basket in the garden and goes up into the house with the goblin.
As a former Girl Scout, can I just say, they tell us when you're knocking on doors, like selling Girl Scout cookies, never go into someone's house. And this is why. Goblins.
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 They had experience. So she goes into the goblin's house, and what does the goblin do? He gives her a silver ball of the title. The first of 3 silver balls.
Titular ball.
The titular ball. My wife loves that I do that, and when I do that, and like so in like real life, she will either do that or like prompt me to do it. But like when the titular something comes up, she like gives me the the look, the eye.
She's like, do it. You got to say it.
You do love a titular character, or in this case, a titular prop. Anyway, so now that the goblin had the girl in the house, the goblin's like, hey, you know what? Since you're in here, why don't you just go look around my house? Because that would be fun, I guess. Well, no, he actually says, like, I have so many pretty things, so many cool things that you can look at. Like, I'm sure you would enjoy it. So he tells her, like, you can open up all the doors. You can go into every room except, of course, for one, there's a door at the top of a winding staircase, and that door you may not open. And then the goblin goes away.
I wonder what'll happen next.
Certainly, she's not going to open that door at the top of the winding staircase because she was told not to.
Yeah, she seems like a good girl.
So she runs straight to the top of the stairs. No, she doesn't do that, but she does start looking around the house, opens one door, then the other. She's looking, she saw it. She's like, oh yeah, there are all these pretty things. But she was kind of like, just doing it. Didn't really linger very long at any of them because she's like, I got to get these cabbages back to my mom. She's going to be upset if I don't get home soon. And so she came down into the hall. She's just about to go out of the house. And then she sees that winding staircase and the door at the top of it. And the temptation is just too great. She's like, what could possibly be inside that door?
Yeah.
That the goblin wouldn't want me to go up and look at it. Like all these cool things. It's going to be cooler than the other stuff that I saw in here. Yeah, it's got to be
pretty cool.
Probably got a foosball table up there. So she looks around, doesn't see the goblin.
Or a pizzeria.
Oh yeah, man. I don't know how I didn't see that this was an Italian fairy tale.
I'm sorry, my slappy happy good time got us a little derailed. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, slap happy. I love to be derailed by slap happy good time comments. So she looks around and she sees the goblin's not around. So she decides that she's just going to go up and take a quick little peep inside the door and then she's going to go home. So she runs quickly as she can up the staircase, opens the door at the top. And what does she see? Well, there's not even a room behind that door. It's just a smelly old cupboard. Not only was it a smelly old cupboard, but the floor of the cupboard was wet and muddy. And that's because the floor of the cupboard was the mouth of a steep, deep, slimy pit. And so the little girl's like, what the heck? And so she quietly and quickly backs out of the cupboard and starts to shut the door. But like the hinges are so stiff, she couldn't shut the door very easily now that it had been opened. So she's like putting both her hands on the door, trying to pull the latch in just the right way. And like while she's maneuvering this to try to get the door shut, she drops her silver ball on the wet, muddy floor, which now it's gotten all dirty. So she's like, oh man. She tries to clean it off by like rubbing it on her apron. And the more she rubs it, the dirtier the ball got. She's like, uh-oh. So she finally managed to like slam shut the cupboard door, puts the ball in her pocket, and then goes back down the staircase. Well, who should be waiting for her at the front door as she's coming down that staircase but the goblin? And so the goblin asks her, he's like, hey, where's that silver ball that I gave you? And so she takes the ball out of her pocket, shows him the ball, and he sees it, and he sees that it's all dirty, and he's like, oh, you dirty, disobedient girl. And he grabs her by the hair, drags her up the staircase, and it says, for though he was very small, he was very strong. And he like flings open the door and throws the little girl headfirst down into the deep, slimy, disgusting, smelly pit.
Yipes.
So, of course, since the girl's now at the bottom of the smelly pit, she did not make it home with the cabbage leaves that her mother asked her to get. And the father, sick, is still moaning and groaning, asking after his cabbage soup. So the mother sends the next oldest girl, tells her to go to the goblin's garden. Tell your sister to come back here with those dang cabbage leaves right this minute. And so that little girl runs off. And that little girl, she runs all the way to the goblin's house, runs into his garden, and she starts calling for her sister. And as she's, calling for her sister, looking around the garden, she sees the basket lying among all the cabbage plants, but her sister is nowhere to be found. And so she starts calling louder and louder and louder, and she's getting kind of upset. So she starts crying. And hearing the crying, the goblin looks out his window of his house, and he's like, what are you crying for? And the little girl's like, my sister, I can't find my sister. Aww. And the goblin's like, oh, your sister's inside my house just looking around. Why don't you come in here and you'll find her in one of these rooms? And gives her the same spiel. It's like, you can look in all the rooms, you can open all the doors, but not the one door at the top of the winding staircase. But you know what? Stop crying, because here, I've got a present for you. And he pulls out a silver ball. And when she comes into the house, he gives her this silver ball. The second titular silver ball. And so she starts running around the house, looking through the rooms, and sees all these pretty things, but does not see her sister anywhere. So she comes back into the hall, ready to give up, maybe, when she finally catches sight of the winding staircase and the door at the top of it. And she thinks to herself, she's like, my sister is not anywhere else in this house. So she must be behind that door at the top of this winding staircase.
Which, listen, she was right.
Yeah, not wrong. Not wrong. There's not a foosball table, but there is a stinky old hole that has your sister inside of it.
Which, man, it reminds me so much of like, do you remember that time on TikTok where there was that guy with the eel pit?
Uh-huh.
It reminds me of that.
Yeah.
Except for it's like the room at the top of the stairs and then there's like a pit down.
Yeah. That's the pit into the eel pit.
Yeah.
Is from the upstairs room.
Yeah. That's how you
deep,
get into the eel pit.
Dark, dank hole.
Stinky hole.
So the girl runs to the top of the winding staircase, pulls the door open, and what does she see but this dirty, nasty cupboard? And she's like, wherever my sister is, she's definitely not in here because this is just a gross, disgusting cupboard. And so she tries to shut the cupboard door, and like her sister was not really able to. It was really difficult. So she drops her ball. Same situation. She picks it up, tries to wipe it off, and it's completely dirty. It gets dirtier and dirtier the more that she rubs it. Finally, she gets the door to the cupboard shut, puts the ball in her pocket, and runs down the stairs into the hall. And of course, the goblin was waiting for her right by the front door. And he asks, hey, where's that silver ball that I gave you? And she's like, it's safe in my pocket. And the goblin's like, you know what? I don't know if I believe you. I would like to see that silver ball. And the little girl didn't want to show the goblin the silver ball, but the goblin was, looking at her very angrily. She was getting scared. And so she didn't know what else to do. So she took out the ball that was still covered in mud and showed it to the goblin. And once again, he calls her a dirty, disobedient girl, grabs her by the hair, drags her up the winding staircase, throws open the cupboard door, and shoots her face first, plunk, down into the pit. And it actually this time did have the plunk sound effect written in italics straight in the text.
You're like quoting directly from the text. Plunk.
Exactly. Cut to the house, and the mom is starting to cry, very upset that her two girls have not come home. The father's moaning even louder than before after his soup. And so the mother says to the youngest little girl, getting desperate now, she says to the girls, run as quick as you can to the goblin's garden and tell your sisters to come home right now. I don't understand what they could possibly be doing that they're not home already. And so the littlest girl, the youngest girl, runs off to the goblin's garden, sees the basket among the cabbage plants, but does not see her sisters. So she runs around the garden, calling after her sisters. And so the goblin puts his head out the window and he's like, hey, what are you making all that noise out here for? And the girl's like, I'm looking for my sisters. I can't find them anywhere. Do you know where they are? And so the goblin's like, oh yeah, I know where they are. They're looking through all the rooms of my house. There's so many great things to see in my house. They're probably not going to be out anytime soon, but you can come in and you can start looking through the house and, you might be able to find them in one of these places or the other. And so the little girl goes into the house, and just like with her sisters, the goblin gives her this silver little ball. And he says, this is to remember me by. And he goes away. And just like before, before leaving, he tells her not to open the door at the top of the winding staircase. And so this girl, at first, listens to that, starts running around room to room, seeing all the pretty things, does not see her sisters. Of course, she couldn't find them because they're at the bottom of a stinky, slimy old pit. When she's looked through all the rooms, realizing that none of them contained her sisters, she's like, my sisters must be in this room at the top of the staircase. So she runs up the staircase and tries to lift the latch of the door. But the door latch was stiff, so it wouldn't open, which I thought was interesting because the other sisters had trouble closing it, but not trouble opening it. I think maybe because she's so little,
maybe
that she's having trouble opening it as well. So because it was hard to open, she takes her silver ball and she puts it down at the top of the staircase and then uses both of her hands on the latch to push and pull until the door comes open. And then of course she opens it and finds nothing but a dirty, smelly, old, nasty cupboard with a horrid, slimy pit at the bottom of it. But as she's standing there looking down into this pit, she hears whimpering and sobbing and crying coming up from the pit. And so she calls down. She's like, hey, who's down there? And then, her sisters call back up. Oh, we're two little girls. The goblin, he took us. He grabbed us by our hair and flung us down here because we got our silver balls dirty. And they, keep crying. So the little girl's like, oh, I see what's going on here. I know where my sisters are and why they got down. And she's like, okay, hold on. I'm going to help you up. Okay. And so she comes out of the cupboard, closes the door, and picks up her silver ball. That did not get dirty because it didn't fall into the muddy floor of the cupboard. And so when she gets to the bottom of the staircase, the goblin is waiting there, as he was before. And he asks her, he's like, hey, what have you done with my silver ball? And she's like, oh, I have it right here. It's safe in my two little hands. And so he's like, okay, show me. So she opens her hands, shows him the silver ball, and it's bright and shining, not a speck of dirt on it. And so the goblin cries like, bravo, bravo, I love you with all my heart. I want you to be my servant and stay and keep my house for me. And the girl's like, well, my mom's crying. My dad is like groaning because he's sick. I got to take these cabbage leaves home to them. And so the goblin's like, okay, fine. Take the cabbage leaves back to your parents. But then I want you to promise that you'll come back to the house. And so the little girl says, yes, I will do that, because she's got to come back to get her sisters anyway. So that's, part of her plan. So the goblin opens the door. She runs out, snatches up the basket of leaves that the first sister already collected, and then runs home and finds her mother crying in the kitchen. And so she gives her the basket and she's like, here are the cabbage leaves. Now I'm going back and I got to get my sisters. And she hurries back to the house of the goblin. And it says she lived with the goblin for a long time. And I'm like, how long of a time was this? She cooked his supper, dusted and tidied his rooms. And because the goblin saw how willing she was to be there and how she was doing such a good job keeping everything clean and cooking his meals and things, he would often go out in the day and, not come home until the evening, like leaving this little girl alone. And so one of these times when the girl was all alone, she found like a long rope and she let it down into the pit and pulled her sisters up out of there. And her sister was like, man, that was quite the mess we got ourselves in. And they were like covered in filth and whatever from the pit. So they, the youngest girl takes them, cleans them off, washes them, and she puts them into a room in the house, like it says the topmost room that the goblin never goes into.
Goblins historically, hate stairs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so she stashes her sisters in this room, and every day she's carrying up food to them. And the goblin notices like how much food is going missing. He's like, wow, you must have a pretty big appetite for such a little girl. And the little girl's like, well, it's because I work so hard keeping this house clean. And the goblin's like, okay, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, there's you eat a lot of food.
Never comment on how much a woman eats.
That's the lesson. That's the moral of this tale.
Indeed.
So it goes on like this for a little while. And one day the goblin comes home singing and dancing. And this is like a little different. And the little girl's like, hey, what's going on? Why are you so happy and singing and dancing? And so the goblin's like, oh, you don't know, but I'm never going to die. Mm-hmm. And the girl was not so heartened by hearing that, because she, I guess, wanted the goblin to die so that she could get her sisters out of here.
What?
But she manages to put on a fake smile nonetheless. And she's like, oh, wow, that's such great news. I'm so happy to hear it. How does that come about that you're not going to die? And so the goblin gets like a little wicked grin on his face and he says, my soul is inside of an eggshell. And the little girl's like, oh, that's amazing. That's so cool. And the goblin continues. He's like, I'm not going to die unless the eggshell gets dirty or broken. But I'm going to take really good care that never happens, because eggshells aren't notoriously fragile and easy to break. Oh, wait, no, it doesn't say that part. I'm going to put my soul in the heart of a diamond.
Smart.
That's just me. Doesn't matter. So this goblin has his eggshell and says he's going to take really good care that it doesn't ever get dirty or broken. And the little girl's like, good luck with that. Take care of yourself. And so the next evening, the goblin comes home and the little girl puts on this kind of sad face and she starts trying to cry and like make a real big show of it. And she, even is refusing to eat. So the goblin knows that there's something wrong, because normally this girl eats 3 whole meals worth of food all by her lonesome. And so the goblin's like, ugh, what's the matter now? And the little girl's like, well, you told me you never die, but if some dirt gets on the egg, that's going to kill you. Can I see your egg to make sure that it's clean and not dirty? She's like, I have to see it. And if it's clean, I'll be happy again. I promise. And so he's like, yeah, nice try. You'll just betray me. You're going to betray me if I show you this thing. And she's like, what? I would betray you? I've been such a good servant to you. Why would I even think of betraying you?
I work so hard.
Yeah, I clean the house so much that I have to eat 3 full meals worth of food each time.
Yeah, and I've never gone into that room that you told me not to go in. I know, because
never once.
I kept my ball nice and shiny.
Pristine.
I'll keep your egg nice and shiny.
Exactly. The goblin still at first is not really wanting to show her the egg, but she was like crying so much and making such a fuss that finally he brings it out of his pocket. But he holds it kind of cupped in his hands. He's like, see, look, it's clean as a brand new pin. And she's like, really? It's clean as a new pin? Oh, wait a minute. This is such the oldest trick in the book. And this goblin, will he fall for it? She says, oh, wait, what's that? I think I see a tiny little speck of dirt. And the goblin's like, where? And he starts looking. She's like, just there. And he's like looking closer. I can just picture it in my mind.
Me too.
Bringing the like egg up closer to his face. Just there, right there. You have to see it. And as soon as she says that, she smacks the egg with the palm of her hand. And the egg falls and breaks on the floor.
I'm like, did this goblin never have a brother? Like,
Must not have. Made you look. So smacks the egg straight out of his hand. It falls to the floor and breaks. And as the egg breaks on the ground, the goblin gives a huge yell and falls over onto the floor, dead. And the little girl runs upstairs to the sister. She's like, come out, come out. The goblin's dead. We're all free. Yay. And then all the girls come out and they're like laughing and shouting and so
Yay.
super happy that this goblin has died.
dead. This loser is dead. Yeah.
Which, I mean, he did throw them like face first down into a pit after dragging them up the stairs by their hair.
Yeah.
Not good feelings engendered that way, I'm sure. So they actually did something that I thought was pretty nice, is they took the goblin out. They could have just left his corpse there to rot on the floor.
Yeah.
But
Or chucked
instead
him
they
down
take
the
it
pit.
out. Oh yeah, that's true. There was already a nice pit they could have just put him in. But no, they didn't. They took him out into the garden and they dug a hole and they buried him. And it specifically mentions, and it wasn't a very big hole that they had to dig because he was so small. And very quickly they were able to cover him in dirt. Again, because it didn't take much dirt to cover his small, tiny little body. Then they took the keys from off of the goblin's corpse that they had looted. And they locked up the house and ran home. And when they got there, their father was still there, lying in bed, moaning and groaning. But as soon as his 3 daughters came in, he jumped up from the bed and got dressed because he wasn't sick anymore. You know why?
He got the golden ticket.
Maybe. He got his cabbage soup that he wanted.
Yay!
And the mother, she was crying when they got home, and she continued crying. But no longer were they tears of sadness and depression, but tears of happiness because her daughters had come back. And so they all hurried over to the goblin's house and started looking all over for even more treasure. And they found some in the cellar. They found a huge heap of treasure. And they're like, well, since there's no one to claim it anymore because we
Murked the last guy.
killed him and buried him in the garden, I guess we can take this treasure for ourselves. And so they did. And now they were rich. They built themselves a big house in the goblin's garden, and they tore down the goblin's old house because they're like, we don't want to have the memories of such a horrible place where such horrible things happened nearby. So it's better to get that place out of sight and out of mind. The end.
Yay!
Dead goblin.
Dead goblin, yay! I was going to say, for the sake of, what our podcast does, ATU type 311, rescue by the sister. So we've had an episode before that had this tail type Fitcher's bird.
Yes. I was going to say, there's very Fitcher's birdie.
Yeah. Very Fitcher's birdie, where, the girls are given these like eggs and told not to mess them up. And then they go into a room they're not supposed to and like drop them in blood or something, get hacked up. And then their sister gets them like put back together.
I forgot that they had eggs.
Yeah.
That they weren't supposed to get. I just remembered like the multiple sisters went and like the other sister had to come.
Yeah.
And I remember there being this whole trick. I was expecting some sort of trick because like the other one, it was like she like carried them away like in a sack on her back or whatever.
Yes,
Or,
yeah.
like had him carry them.
Yeah.
Like on a sack. I was like I was waiting for some sort of like trick with the balls where it's like, or something where she was going to like somehow like trade out the balls like with each of her sisters so they could like be like, oh, my ball's not dirty or something. But that never happened.
Yeah.
But it was because of that other, the other tale. That
yeah, because it also has the element, the end of it is ATU type 302, which is ogres or devils or like creatures, because there's also Cachet the Deathless. Heart in the egg or soul in the egg.
Oh, yeah.
And so it ends like that, where it's like, oh, yeah, but I'll never die because I have my soul kept in this like other separate object. And so, yeah, it ends completely differently. Because, yeah, as I was reading it, I was like, okay, I've read Fitcher's Bird. I know how this is going to end. But it did not end the way that I thought it was going to at all. So, yeah, super nice. I love it when I read a tale that has like an element where I was like, I was not expecting this ending. And I can see that too, that same moment of like her just being like, but there's a spot on it right there. And he's like, wait, where? And he's like so focused on like looking at the egg to be like, wait, what are you talking about? What spot? And then her hand just bam. Where I seriously am like, Have you never have a sibling? It reminds me of oh,
Definitely not.
I bet I can make this coin disappear under this bottle of water. And they're like, now watch it. And you like put your face over the bottle of water, and then the person just squeezes the bottle and like water shoots up into your face.
Water in your face.
It is like that exact same like type of prank, which for the record, I don't like. I'm not a huge fan of
unless it's to help a goblin get his comeuppance.
Yeah, fine, I guess.
But you don't like it when they play it on you.
Or other people that haven't. I guess if you've kidnapped some children, then I don't care what tricks get played on you.
You don't know that the old ladies in those videos on TikTok have not kidnapped children.
You know, that's true.
So we have to assume that they must have, and that's why they're having this prank pulled on them.
Now every time I watch like a prank video like that, I'm like, I'm gonna assume that this person who has the prank pulled on them is a fiend.
Let's kidnap little girls and throw them into a pit, and they deserve what's coming to them.
Yep.
They deserve to get splashed in the face with water.
Absolutely. Oh, man. But yeah, I greatly enjoyed that tale.
Same.
And now I'm going to tell a completely different story featuring goblins that have different personalities. This is a French story. And that's one thing that I enjoyed about like these different tales is that like even though the creature of like the goblin is mischievous and like all of the tales, their character alignment is different, where it's like, listen, are they all chaotic? Yes. But are they sometimes like chaotic good, chaotic neutral, chaotic evil? Like, yes. All the above. And I love it when there's like a creature or character that's like that, where you're kind of like, I don't know what they're going to do in this. Yeah.
Like, fake creatures commonly are that way, where it's like, and even the exact same creature at different moments will be like, it'll be doing something nice for you, or it'll be like pranking you mercilessly, or like literally trying to kill you.
Yeah.
They can like oscillate so much, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. Because you're like, I never, like, you just don't know. Like, what are they up to? What are they going to do? So, this story is called Pappa Greatnose. Grande Nez, I assume.
French?
Yeah.
Nice.
Anyway, Pappa Greatnose. Once upon a time, there was a king of a very small country, and he was attacked by a neighboring powerful king, and he was driven out of his kingdom and then across a river out into the woods and the mountains. So the whole entire kingdom got pushed right out of their castle and city, like the entire thing. Anyway, so the king, who was able to like overthrow them with their army, he went to the bridge and lit the bridge on fire so that nobody could cross back over to retake. Burning bridges. But sometimes to keep the peace in your kingdom, you got to burn some bridges. And that's the moral of this story. I really hope that it does turn into now this like whole like inside joke of the podcast that we're always coming up with very like sassy, facetious morals with each other. So anyway, the victorious king and leader of the other army, he was like, oh, and I'm going to burn these bridges down so that the army can't get back over and attack us. It's going to be really hard for them to, and that's how you have to defend. So everybody who is out there, it says mostly the defeated army, but I'm assuming everybody got kicked out of the kingdom, because I'd hate to think what happened to the women and children. So don't. Just enjoy the fairy tale.
They probably had them. Never mind. It's the I was going to say looking into water bottles and. But no, they would have thrown them in deep slimy pits.
Yeah. So we won't. I'm like, we won't dig too deeply into that, and we'll just enjoy this as a fairy tale. So anyway, all of the defeated army that had been pushed out, they were living on roots and berries and just, trying to make do with what they had. And the king, he was going crazy, worrying, oh, I guess, no, we do find, he does say, quote, wondering what would become of the queen, his wife, and the princess, his daughter, whom the enemy king had captured. So I guess we do know what happened to the women and the children.
Kidnapped them. And so he deserves to have pranks pulled on him, that rival king.
Yep.
Good knowing that going into the story.
Yeah. That way we won't feel so bad if some pranks happen.
Yeah.
Some little goofs. Is murder a prank? Asking
Could
for
be.
a friend.
Asking for a goblin.
Asking for a goblin. Okay, so anyway.
Is murder a prank? It's just a prank, bro.
Yeah. So inside of that, defeated army that was living off roots and berries and whatnot, there was a brave young officer. And so that brave young officer was like, okay, why should we just be sitting here by the river, just standing here going, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? We should, somebody's got to take action. So I'm going to go and explore the country nearby us, and I'm going to see what might be beyond some of these woods. There might be another kingdom that we don't know about that has people that can help us, that we can enrich our armies. There's something that we can do, but we can't just stand here doing nothing. We've got to figure out something. So he went and walked into the thick woods. I immediately thought of Lord of the Rings, Fangorn Forest and stuff like that. Where I'm oh, watch out for the trees. But anyway, it's not that. So, because he said there was nothing that could be seen but trees and trees and trees. The Entwives. No.
They left long ago.
Yeah.
No one knows where.
Maybe they're in France. But anyway, so he said it seemed like the woods went on forever. So he got to a point where he was like, okay, the woods cannot possibly go on forever. I'm going to climb to the top of this pine tree and I'm going to see if I can't, get above the other trees and, figure out lay of the land. Where am I? What am I looking at? What am I dealing with here? So he gets up to the top of this tree and he's looking around, and then he spied with his little eye something that was Goblin.
Something that was green.
Is it a tree? No. Was it a wide grassy clearing beyond the wood? Yes. So he saw this big wide open clearing beyond the woods, and he was like, oh, okay, that might be something. And then he noticed that there was some smoke coming up from that area, and when he looked closer, he could see that there was a fire in the middle of this big clearing, and all around it was a crowd of goblin children who were dancing and singing. Oh, they're just kids.
Aww.
I'm once he could see them, he could suddenly hear their shrill voices as well, which I'm interesting. Magical creatures, I guess, their voices carry, but only when you can first spot them. I don't know. Magic. So the kids were dancing around, shrieking, having a good time as children do. And then they all started yelling out, oh, look, here comes Pappa Greatnose, Pappa Greatnose, Pappa Greatnose. Just super excited. So the soldier spied that an old goblin stepped into the clearing. And it said with a nose almost as big as all the rest of him. So I guess that's why they call him Pappa Greatnose.
That's a pretty big nose.
You know what they say.
Was it 3 L's long?
It does not say, but yeah, you know what? Why not? It's been a while since we've done some Norwegian textile magic. Man, that's a callback.
That was a long time ago.
That was quite a callback. Because I was just trying to make a dick joke.
I know. I was trying to subvert it by making a joke relevant to the subject matter of our podcast.
Is the subject matter of our podcast not cocks?
Good point.
Anyway, so...
This is a cock podcast. This is a cock and balls podcast. It has to be cock and balls. For some reason, it can't just be, this is a 1-syllable podcast.
Yeah, of course. You're listen, it didn't work. I had to add the balls. I'm logically, you're correct. For the cadence of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm picking up what you're putting down. All right. So now I have to decide how much of that I'll keep in the podcast. At what point I'm going to cut.
You'll figure it out.
Because that was the best and I loved it. And it really made it a slappy, happy, fun time for me.
I'm glad.
Yeah. I love you, Geoff.
I love you too, friend.
All right. Good day, dear children. So the children ran over to this old goblin with this big nose. And they're like, good day, Pappa Greatnose. And he's like, good day, dear children. And they ask him, what news, Pappa Greatnose? Pappa Greatnose was like, children, listen, I know something. And the kids are like, tell us, Pappa Greatnose, tell us. Love that. And so he was like, I'll tell you, but what I have to tell you must go no further than us. Listen, secrets are no fun. Secrets hurt no one. So
they hurt no one?
No. Oh, my bad. Secrets are no fun. Secrets hurt someone. Did I just say secrets hurt no one? Wrong. If an old man, even if he is a loved one, tells you to keep secrets, that's suspicious behavior. We're trying to keep children safe on our podcast today. We're like, don't go into people's homes. Don't keep secrets. But all these children were like, no, Pappa Greatnose. It shan't go any further. And he's like, okay, well, that's good because if you tell anybody what I'm about to tell you, you'll turn into stone. And they're like, yipes. Classic grooming behavior. Poor guy. Anyway, I'm like, we're going to suspend our disbelief. Remember, none of this is life advice. So Pappa Greatnose said, okay, children, listen. In the woods, there's a red tree, and a twig of that tree, if you lay it across water, it becomes a bridge. Crick, crack. Be silent about this, for he who tells will be turned into stone. And so the young officer, hearing all of this as he's spying up from the top of from a tree, it's not the tree, the like red tree that this Pappa Greatnose is talking about. But he hears all that they're talking about, and he scrambled down from the tree, and he went through the woods, and he was searching for that red tree. And so when he found it, he took a twig, broke it off, and he hurried back over to where the army was by the riverbank, and he laid the twig in the water, and right before his eyes, boom, there was a huge bridge, and it was longer and broader than the bridge that had been there before. And it spanned the river from bank to bank, which is literally what a bridge is.
Yeah, if your bridge doesn't go all the way to the bank on the other side, like...
It's not a bridge. It's a log. Legally...
It's a pier.
Like, you're right. In my head, it was just right in the center where you couldn't get on it or get off of it.
It didn't go to either side. It's not connected to either side. It's just like straight in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what that would be. There's probably a term for something
a
like
log
that,
just rolling down the... But yes, when you were like a pier, I was like, oh, right, connected to one side. That makes good sense. You're a smart man, Jeffrey.
Hard to build a bridge from the middle.
Yeah, unless you chucked this, because in my head it was like you chucked the twig in and it suddenly got bigger, but it didn't quite. Make it all the way across. Yeah, I wasn't thinking of like the actual like construction progress. But yeah, no, you're right. So it turned into a bridge spanning the river from bank to bank, a very special bridge. Anyway, so immediately the young officer, he like ran over to the king and was like, Your Majesty, quick, bring the army. I want to show you the bridge that I made, which he sounded nuts. Just like, because you imagine everybody's just like, man, what do we do? And he's like, I made a bridge all by myself.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, sure, buddy. Anyway, so the king and all the army like went over and they were astonished to see like this miracle take place where it's like, oh my goodness. But they were like, man, I don't know how he did it, but
he did.
But he did it. And when they inquired of him how he did it, he was like, I cannot tell you. And they were like, okay, cool. Doesn't matter. Okay, army, let's get across together. So they marched across the bridge so that they could win back their kingdom. But alas, they were all very like weak and tired because they'd been living for a while. It doesn't say exactly how long, but they'd been living for a while on like just like roots and berries. And the enemy troops had been, feasting on all the food of their kingdom after they'd pushed everybody out. And so they were very refreshed and they were like full of strength. And so they were able to drive the king back across the river and push them far into the wild uninhabited woods again. And after they had gotten everybody to, recross over this bridge, they set guards in front of it, which I was like, a little bit better than burning it down, but I don't understand why you wouldn't burn it down. No offense. Just not how I would have done it.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you.
Yeah. But anyway, so the young officer, this time, instead of, wasting time being like, oh, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? He just walked right back into the thick woods, climbed back up to the top of the pine tree. And he was like, maybe I can learn something else that could help us. Like maybe that'll help. So he looked beyond the woods and there were the goblin children again, dancing around the fire, which I'm like, do these children just exist just to be dancing around and then receive advice from Pappa Greatnose? Apparently, Yes. Because as he was watching the children, goblin children dancing around, all of a sudden they started screaming with their shrill voices again. Pappa Greatnose, Pappa Greatnose, here he comes. Yay, he's back again. And they're like, what news? Tell us everything you know, Pappa Greatnose. And he's like, all right, kids, I know something. And they're like, oh, tell us, Pappa Greatnose. Which these kids are like, this information, I don't know when I'm going to use it.
Yeah. Unless it's information about dancing around a fire, I don't know what I'm going to do with it.
Yeah. Like, why would I need to build a bridge, Pappa Greatnose? And don't tell anybody about it. And they're like, okay, I'm not going to use that information, and I won't tell anybody about it either.
Nor will I remember it after this conversation is over.
Because I am a child. So anyway, he's like, all right, children, listen. I will tell you the way to defeat an enemy army. Which the kids are like, okay. Got nothing better to do today, Pappa Greatnose. So he says, in the woods, there is a hollow tree, and in that tree, there's a pile of dust. If somebody were to take this dust and cast it to the wind toward the enemy would be choked and blinded by sawdust attack. And the enemy would have to flee, and they would never be able to return because they'd be being pursued by this pile of dust. Yeah. Crick, crack, be silent about this, because he who tells will be turned into stone. And so the young officer didn't wait after hearing this. He was like, great, scrambled down the tree, started searching the woods till he found the hollow tree. And then he filled up a knapsack with dust. It says he filled the knapsack, he filled his pockets, he filled his cap, he filled his boots. I'm sure he looked very normal doing that. Like, well, he's lost his marbles in the woods. He's just like got his like carrying a cap and boots, just like full of. I'm like, dude, why not take off your pants and tie up the end of the feet of your pants and then fill your pants up also with sawdust. You know, just go all the way.
Amazing. Yeah.
Take off your socks, fill up your socks with this dust.
You want to defeat the army, or don't you?
Gotta take off your underpants and fill them with dust. Anyway, so he goes back to the king and he's like, sire, if tomorrow the wind blows from us across the river, summon the army together and put me in front of everybody and I'll lead the army to victory. And the king is like, yeah, I will gladly put you in front. You'll be the first to cross the bridge. No problem. Your wish is my command. I will definitely make sure that you get put in front.
Not a lot of people fighting you for that honor.
Yep. But the king said, if you can do that, you will be greatly rewarded.
If you can't do it, you'll be dead and I won't have to worry about it.
Yep. So that night, the winds shifted and started blowing across the river in the direction of the enemy. So in the morning, everybody lined up on one side of the bridge, and the young officer was put in front with his great sack full of dust. I'm assuming he maybe poured it out of his boots into a bigger sack or something, or he's just like...
Yeah, I mean, once he got back to the army, he could have transferred it all into a bigger sack.
Yeah, I would hope so. Because can you imagine him running up to the king with like his boots and his hat full of dust, and he's like, put me in, coach! Oh, man.
I can't imagine that.
I can. It's hilarious. So anyway, he stands in front of everybody and he pulls out the dust and starts, shaking it, throwing it up into the air, and it's blowing across the bridge, across the river towards the enemy. And it created this immense cloud that floated over the bridge. And the enemy guards started gasping and choking and staggering because they couldn't see, they couldn't hear, they could scarcely breathe. And the cloud of dust, it floated and it kept wrapping itself around the heads of the enemy in their suffocating vapor. Which I'm like, dude, that's horrifying. So everybody in the army, they all like dropped their weapons down and they're just like coughing, choking, sobbing. They're trying to fan in front of their faces, trying to get some like good air. And so they fled out of the king's kingdom and they went all the way back to their own kingdom, just kept running. And on the border of that kingdom, there was always a cloud of dust that formed an immense pillar and nobody could get past it. And I'm like, dang. That was some powerful dust.
Very effective.
So the king was able to take possession of his kingdom again, go into his palace, and find his queen and the princess. They were alive and well, though very frightened, which, good. I'm glad they were frightened but unharmed. It doesn't seem that plausible, but we will believe it because it is a fairy tale and it makes me feel better. The story is less fun if the women have been terrorized too much. So the king was like, what shall I reward this boy for restoring this young officer for restoring my kingdom to me? It says, quote, why, surely he deserved nothing less than the king's daughter in marriage. So he was like, that is exactly what we'll do. We will arrange the wedding. So the day before the wedding, the young officer was strolling the palace gardens with the princess, and they were talking about things, getting to know each other, chit-chatting. And the princess was saying how happy it is that everything had turned out. But she was like, tell me, my beloved, how did you manage to make that bridge? And how did you know about the magic dust? Where did you find it? I'm so curious. I'm full of things. And if we've learned one thing in reading our tales, it's that the French hate nothing more than a curious woman. Charles Perrault is like, a curious woman. We know what we do with those. They must be punished. So anyway, the young officer, he was in such good spirits that he had, quote, forgotten everything but his love for her. So he told her everything about Pappa Greatnose and the secrets. And crick-crack, the words were scarcely out of his mouth when a shudder ran through him and he turned gray and his limbs grew stiff. He could neither move nor speak nor see nor hear. There he stood, a man turned to stone. The princess gasped and started screaming, and everybody started rushing out because, of course, if a princess starts screaming, everyone's like, what's happening to her? We must save her. Anyway, so they run out and they see that this young man has turned into a stone. So in the crowd was the young officer's uncle, and he was like, oh my gosh, what happened to my nephew? You have to tell me what happened. And so, sobbing, the princess told him, we were walking and we were talking, and I asked him about the bridge and I asked him about the dust, and he told me, and then she repeated everything that the young man had just told her. And so, of course, crick crack, no sooner had those words left her mouth than she turned to stone. And then everybody rose up in lamentations. Love that word. So there was not going to be a joyous wedding. Everybody was weeping and wailing. It doesn't say a gnashing of teeth, but biblically, I love the phrase weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth. So everybody so upset. There wasn't going to be a wedding. This beautiful love story that had just started to blossom was over. And the king had the two stones carried into the church and set up on either side of the altar. And he just cried and cried and cried and cried. And the queen came and she cried and cried. The whole kingdom came and went to the church and they cried and cried. Because how do you have a funeral for two stone people? I guess you just let them be the gargoyles in the church building. So you can't bury the body. I mean, I guess you could bury the bodies, but why waste a good statue? Those look nice in the garden.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So the young officer's uncle, he was thinking nonstop, day and night, about what the princess had told him. So he was like, there has to be a way that I can get them to be turned back into humans. We've got to be able to bring them back to life. I'm like, oh, I'm thinking of like, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and like Aslan. But no, different story entirely. So
I'm just thinking True Love's Kiss.
Yeah, Unc. Go kiss some of those statues. Ooh, or maybe Pappa Greatnose. Are you thinking you'd just take the two statues and be like, now keys? Like, push them up against each other. Like two Barbie dolls.
Hey, it might work.
Yeah, might work. Anyway, so he was like, maybe if I go out into the woods and I climb up that pine tree, I might be able to hear something and learn something. So he jumped on his horse and he rode away out of the city, over the bridge, into the deep, dark woods. So climbing up the tallest pine tree that he could find, he, got to the top, looked around, and then he saw a clearing, and he saw some goblin children playing around the fire, laughing and singing. And then he heard them start screaming, Pappa Greatnose, Pappa Greatnose, as he saw this old goblin heading out toward the fire. And they're like, what have you to tell us this time, Pappa Greatnose? And he's like, well, dear children, I know something. Tell us, Pappa Greatnose. He's like, all right, I'll tell you, but you better not repeat it. And they're like, we won't. He's like, all right. So listen, kids, in the middle of the woods, there's a pool with a covering of ice. If anybody were to lift the ice, take a little of the water from under it and sprinkle it upon those who are stone, they would be happy and breathe again. Crick, crack, be silent about this, for he who speaks of it will be turned into stone. And the children were like, okay, cool beans. Seems like a weird thing to tell us. But anyway, the uncle, he heard that, and so he slid down the pine tree and he started searching the woods till he found this pool that was covered in ice. And he was able to lift the ice, fill his water bottle with the water beneath it, got back up on his horse, galloped over the bridge, back to the city. So when he got to the church doors, he climbed down, ran into the church, and uncorked his water bottle and poured the water over the heads of the young officer and the princess bride. My words, not theirs. I just was like, she's a princess and she's a bride. And then once I said it, I was like, a reference. Anyway, so he poured the water over them and he poured and shook and shook and poured until the water bottle was completely empty. And he waited for them to start coming to life. And then they moved and they breathed and they stood there before him holding hands and smiling one another. Now, instead of everybody being sad, there was rejoicing, and the city hung their flags, rang their bells, had the wedding, and the king decided he was going to make the uncle his chief minister because he was so happy that he was like, I can't reward you enough. I can't, give you enough to thank you for bringing my daughter and my son-in-law back to life. And the king was like, but how did you know about the water? And the uncle was like, okay, that's a secret. I literally cannot tell you, which I seriously am like, dude, that's when the young officer should come over and be like, yeah, I would not be pushing that or you're going to be really upset about it. So the king, of course, kept pestering him about it because he was like, come on, we're best friends. We're really good friends. And day and night, he was asking this uncle, how'd you know about the water? How did you know about it? You can tell me. You and I are friends. We're really close friends. We're like BFFs forever, for life. And so the uncle could not bear it any longer. So instead of him immediately blabbing, which I'm like, thank goodness, because how many of these stories are like, then I guess I'll tell you and die, or, whatever. But no, he was like, okay, I'm going to ride out of the city, across the bridge, into the forest, climb up the tall pine tree, and see if I can't overhear some useful information. Because how fortuitous it is that every time they climb up this tree, they get exactly the news that they need to hear.
Yeah.
So anyway, he is up that tree and the children dancing around the fire. Pappa Greatnose, what news do you have for us? And he's like, oh, I know something. And they're like, tell us. So he's like, well, dear children, I will tell you, but don't you tell it again. And they're like, no, we won't tell. We never tell. Mostly because none of this pertains to us. And he says, okay, dear children, listen. I will tell you the way to get rid of a burdensome secret without being turned into stone. So, near the riverbank, there grows an orange tree, and somebody who is burdened with a secret need only pick and eat one orange, then bore a hole in the trunk of the tree, press your lips to that hole, whoa, and softly, softly whisper his secret. I want everybody to go out and just whisper their secrets into the hole of the tree.
I feel like that's like a thing.
The world would be a better and weirder place if we would all just whisper our secrets into the hole of the tree. So, once you whisper the secret into the hole of the tree, those words will flow down inside the trunk, and they'll go down into the roots of the tree, and they will lose themselves in the river, and the river will carry away the secret. Then he will be free of his secret and will be able to speak it aloud when and where he pleases without the fear of being turned into stone. Crick, crack! Be silent about this, or you'll be turned to stone. Unless you whisper it into a tree, I guess. All right. And so the kids were like, yes, Pappa Greatnose, we'll be silent unless we whisper our secrets into trees, I guess. So the uncle climbed down the pine tree, hurried out into the woods, went to the riverbank so that he could search for that orange tree on the riverbank. And he plucked an orange and bored a hole in the trunk of the tree, and then he pressed his lips to the hole and softly whispered all of his secrets into the tree so that they could creep down to the roots of the tree, flow into the river, and have the river carry them away. So after the river had carried away his secrets that he had whispered into the hole of an orange tree, he climbed onto his horse, galloped back to the king, and was like, "Now I will tell you everything I know, because the burden of my secret is lifted from me." So he told the whole story, quote, just as it is written here. And the king rejoiced and marveled. He took the uncle by the arm, brought him to sit down by the throne, and made him tell the story all over again. The end.
Beautiful.
I love the idea of just every time you climb up a tree, like Pappa Greatnose is like just in the middle being like, "Guess what? I just thought of something." And the kids are like,
Tell us.
okay. And the kids are just like going home to their parents. They're like, "I think Pappa Greatnose has lost it. He just keeps telling us stuff that's just weird." And their parents are like, "You need to stop hanging out with Pappa Greatnose." We need to have a conversation with Pappa Greatnose and maybe figure out the best place for him in his situation.
At the very least, take away his driver's license.
Yeah. Anyway, so a huge thank you to Abbie and Kelsey of Fairy Tale Fix for being friends of the podcast and also for creating great content and fun giveaways and all around being awesome and great. Yeah. Definitely go and check out the work that they do. I think that, if you like our podcast, I think that you would quite enjoy Fairy Tale Fix.
I think so too.
And yeah, hopefully everybody enjoyed the slappy, happy, good time that is Goblins. And I'm especially excited for the next episode that Geoff and I are going to make to celebrate 7 years of podcasting. So,
and finally, my bad luck will be over. From that mirror I broke while
7
recording
years.
our very first podcast episode.
Wow, that'd be crazy. Do you remember after you broke it and then COVID happened? That was you.
That was my fault.
So yeah, it's been a crazy 7 years, and hopefully we'll just keep making this quality content.
Thank you for listening to The Fairy Tellers. If you enjoy what we're doing, please leave us a review or share us with your friends. For access to exclusive bonus content, consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/thefairytellers. Special thanks to Andy Forey for our music and to Clarice Inch for our artwork. And of course, a big thank you to all our patrons. Without all of you, this show wouldn't be possible.
Good stories pay little attention to cultural or linguistic frontiers. The student of story collections find themselves adrift on an ocean of stories, an ocean which is boundless, deep, and ceaseless in motion. Robert Irwin.
It's been a wild ride, and it's gonna get maybe wilder. We'll see. Or maybe it'll be continuing the same wild trajectory. Who knows? The future is unknowable.
Just keep talking. If you talk long enough, something will happen. To be fair, that wasn't a bad ending, but
yeah, except it is funny when I just start equivocating when I'm like, and hopefully it'll be 7 more great years, or who knows, maybe it'll be shit or better than it was. Who knows?
Or it'll be wilder, or maybe the exact same level of wildness that you've come to expect, or maybe the wildness will decrease a little, but then make another turn and then come back to baseline, stay there a little bit, peak up, and then just drop back down and realize, baseline was where we wanted to be the whole time.